Hello again, I am Red here at Red Tone Studio. Today I have something brand new for the channel and for me. I was actually sent a mic to review. I know, as of filming this, I'm only at 465 subscribers, but my channel is gaining momentum. So this is what I assume to be a Chinese mic. It was sent to me from a company that reached out to me on Instagram and wanted me to do a review of one of their mics. Now, they sent it to me free of charge, and besides telling me how to pronounce the company name, which is Fifine apparently, though it looks like Fifine, and also making sure that I was doing an unboxing, which I'll get to, and reviewing all the functions, and making sure the mic is in the thumbnail and title, they gave me no other instructions. So they are not weighing what I'm going to say about this, and at the end of the video, what I'm going to leave as my final conclusion. So we'll dive right in and see what they sent. Now, let's start with the unboxing. Again, I have never done such a thing on this channel, as most of the stuff I've gotten recently has been used gear or gear that I've built. So, looking here on the box, it was shipped from Fifine Shop in New Jersey. It only took about 7 days to receive the mic, and that was through the Thanksgiving holiday. So normally, I would assume less than that, probably 4 or 5 days. Opening up the shipping box, there is a smaller product box inside. Now, they could do a better job putting some packing material in this bigger box to make sure that little box doesn't bounce around, but I'm pretty happy with the way it came. And really, there is no damage to this inner box. So for the mic box, or product box, is labeled pretty well, with the box being printed directly on it. It has a picture of the mic on the outside, as you can see. The name of what I assume is the mic series, which is here is Amplitank. And in the bottom corner is what I assume is the mic name, Tank 3. Looking on Amazon, I couldn't find a Tank 1 or a Tank 2, so who knows where that came from. So let's open her up and see what's inside. Easy enough. First off, we have a owner's manual, user's manual, right on top. I usually just throw these right in the garbage, but I might want to read through this one, kind of see how the translation is. As we all know, that can sometimes be a little iffy when things come from China. The first thing I notice is the mic is packed very well with all this foam on top, and what I assume is covering up the mic. Now this has me feeling even better about the way it was shipped. Under this first layer of foam is the mic and what looks to be a USB cord. USB-A to USB-C. And it looks pretty long, so even if I don't use the mic often, I'm always looking for more USB Type-C cords laying around. As I pull the mic out, I can see that it is truly an all-metal mic as they claim. But it isn't that heavy. But it's pretty substantial, at least compared to my other mics, which we'll talk about later. And that is about it in the box. Other mics on Amazon from this company seem to have tripods, arms, and other things. So we'll get a stand for mine, and then we'll hook it up and see how she sounds. Looking at the thread end here, it looks like it takes 2 different mic stand sizes. The big one here on the outside being what I would use here in the US. And deep down inside there is that smaller one for, I guess, other regions. Now that I have it up on a stand and hooked up to my interface, which is a QU16 from Allen & Heath, via the XLR cable, I am recording in Reaper as my DAW. And this is how I would use a normal dynamic microphone, like this here in my studio, to do vocals. Fifine labels this as a podcast microphone, so for the rest of the video, I will be using it for my spoken word. I was previously using a small diaphragm condenser mic from Lewitt Match 040, just out of frame. Can you already tell the difference? I hope this is sounding good enough to continue. If not, I'll switch back to the Lewitt as needed. Let's go through the buttons and knobs while we are here. First off, there's a mute button right here on the side. Kind of hard to see probably on my top-down camera. but I don't believe it does anything, and I really wouldn't use this in the studio setting, but for a gamer recording streams or something, this might be useful. Then we have two knobs, which looks like a mic volume and a headphone volume. They seem pretty straightforward, but since this isn't a powered mic from Phantom Power, and I don't have the USB plugged in right now, I don't know how it's going to power the headphones. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Around to the back, we have the XLR output, which I am plugged into now, a USB Type-C port, and an 1/8 inch or 3mm headphone jack. So now I'm going to take my headphones here and plug them into the back of the mic. Just to see what happens. Check, 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 check. And as I suspected, there is no output going into the headphones. Time to break open the owner's manual. So, after consulting the owner's manual, I see that the mic acts as an interface, which I suspected, which makes sense using the USB Type-C port. So to use the mute switch, the mic gain, and the volume, headphone volume, you must have the USB cord installed and use your computer to receive and send information to and from the microphone. That is a bit disheartening, but for most users, I would assume you would only be using this with the USB cord anyway. And for those of us with a recording studio, or at least a dedicated interface, you would have no need for these on-mic features anyways. But I'm going to try them out, just to make sure they work. So now I have the USB cord plugged in, and a light came on that turns red when I press it, so mute on and off. But it's not muting the XLR, so it's just muting the kind of the interface part of it that goes through the USB cable. So we'll get that set up here for a few minutes, and then I'll come back and I'll be recording using the USB. So now I have the USB cord plugged in. I've chosen the Fifine mic as my interface. No drivers or anything crazy was needed, so that was good to see. So, do you think the sound quality has changed? I will make sure to level match them. I'll have to check at the end of the video, and then I'll give my full review. So now the mic button works. Check, check, check. The volume works. Hello, 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 hello. You can't hear it, but the headphone volume changes as well. Sounds pretty good to me here in my ears. I have it all the way up. There is a little bit of a hiss. But so far, I think it's the making of a good beginner podcast, streaming, gaming, even a voiceover mic. Overall, so far I like it. But this is not what I would use it for. I have here a semi-professional recording studio to run. So how does this stack up against some of my other microphones in my locker? I'm going to go back to the XLR input and do some tests. The first obvious choice is putting it up against the most used podcast mic of all time, the Shure SM7b. The SM7b is like 4 times the price, probably double the weight, but how does it sound? So let's get it set up. Alright, I am running the SM7b into a cloud lifter, and that's just about how everyone will run this mic. Then it'll go directly into my interface, again the QU16. I am then positioning these two mics as close together as possible, so then I can switch back and forth so you can hear the differences. This is a vocal test of the Fifine Tank 3 compared to the Shure SM7b for spoken word. This is a vocal test of the Fifine Tank 3 compared to the Shure SM7b for spoken word. This is a vocal test of the Fifine Tank 3 compared to the Shure SM7b for spoken word. What did you think? Which would you choose? Let me know down in the comments, and hit subscribe while you're down there. So next, let's try it on some singing vocals. For this test, I'm going to put the Tank 3 up against the standard dynamic mic, the Shure SM58. Both of these mics are dynamic, so it should be fairly similar. Though the SM58 is most used live, it can also be a good studio mic as well. I for sure wouldn't use the Tank 3 in a live situation, but it's really not what it was designed for. You're the kind of trouble I want, and you're the kind of trouble I crave. The love you gave to me, baby, will put me in the grave. You're the kind of trouble I want, and you're the kind of trouble I crave. The love you gave to me, baby, will put me in the grave. You're the kind of trouble I want, and you're the kind of trouble I crave. The love you gave to me, baby, will put me in the grave. Since the Tank 3 is a dynamic mic, I'm trying to find dynamic mics to put it up against in the recording studio setting. For this next test, I'm going to put it on a snare drum and put it next to an SM57, also from Shure, which is the standard choice for a snare mic live and in the studio. Now, let's stick to the drums and see how it performs as a kick drum mic. I don't expect it to work here at all, as it isn't designed for such low sounds. But why not give it a try? I will use it outside of the kick drum and match it with the D112 from AKG, which is pretty standard, both live and in the studio. The last test for this mic in a studio setting is on a guitar amp. The mic is rated for an SPL of about 120 decibels, which should be fine to record a loud guitar. I won't go too crazy right off the bat though. Again, I will pair it with a proverbial favorite, the SM57. Alright, how did those turn out? Did you like the Fifine Tank 3 on any of those sources better than the usual suspects? So, as you see, my shirt is different, so I've had the chance now to listen close to each one of those sources, and here are my thoughts. For spoken word, the SM7b, which I'm using here again because it's super windy outside, was the clear winner. The Tank 3 is just a little bit nasally and too thin for my voice. I like a big, beefy low end to accentuate my voice, the baritone in my voice anyways. Though, for a different voice type, this may not be an issue. For singing, I'm going to hand it to the SM58. The Tank 3 has that big mid bump, and in this test, that might help the vocal cut through a mix, or be easy to understand if you were, say, using it for streaming or gaming. But recording serious vocals in the studio, or for doing live sound, the SM58 is just a little bit more rounded out. Now, for the snare drum, both the SM57 and the Tank 3 sounded quite good. Again, the Tank 3 was missing that lower end of the register to give you that snare woolly sound that you might be going for. But on the other hand, the Tank 3 has a much more upfront and in-your-face sound. So I heard someone once mention that the SM57 always makes things sound like 10 feet away. That might be good or bad depending on what you are mixing, and I was hearing it here, so go back and see if you were hearing the same thing. Also, when you're there, listen for the rest of the drum set bleed during the full drumming part. You'll notice that both mics do a good job of not letting in the hi-hats or the crash, and my hi-hats sound terrible and they are super loud, so I was pretty happy with that. For the kick drum, again, as expected, the Tank 3 is just missing that low end. But that snap of the beater is nice and present. Now, I didn't expect this to be a fair fight, as the Tank 3 is for sure not designed for this. Would it work in a pinch? Maybe. And also, as expected, the D112 from AKG does a much better job keeping out the bleed of the rest of the kit. And finally, for the electric guitar and amp, here I think the Tank 3 really holds its own. The SM57 has a lot of bite and sizzle in the high mids, which might help it cut through the mix. But the Tank 3 makes it sound more like what I was hearing in the studio. It also had no problem with the super high decibels that my amp was pushing out. And again, you get that 57 3 to 10 feet away thing going on. And this was right up front. So, what are my last thoughts on this mic? I'd say for a list price of $89.99 or a street price of $79.99, this is a decent mic. Now, I wouldn't actually go out and buy it to use in a studio setting like mine, but if you're looking for a mic to game with or stream, this really is a solid choice. I would recommend to use it only with the USB cable. You get the functionality of all the buttons and the knobs, and you don't have to crank the gain so high on your interface, leaving you with a much clearer signal. It does have an all-metal jacket, which feels really nice and solid. It is pretty heavy compared to, some of the other mics. The muted black looks really nice. It's not, in a video, it's not going to be distracting, but it's going to look professional. Now, we always have to worry about build quality of these budget mics, but the fit and finish of this mic looks really good. Now, maybe if you want me to tear it apart and have a look at the insides, let me know, and I'll do that in another video. Though I don't see any screws, so I bet it's all glued together. But it might be fun. Overall, I would give this a buy rating if you were on a budget or looking for something really nice for streaming or gaming. If you are putting together a budget studio, there are better options, at least ones that I would choose first. I would recommend the MXL V67G as a place to start at this price point. On the other hand, that one is a condenser mic that needs 48 volt phantom power and a separate interface. So that is going to drive up that initial cost. So if this is something that you're looking for, I would say go for it. Now, thanks for watching. This is Red here at Red Tone Studio, and I'll catch you in the next one.